Oh, you should. Oh, locked open door. Greetings, programs, and welcome back to the Lair of Knowledge. I was just doing a little light reading there. Well, you know how it go. Here in the Lair of Knowledge, we dwell on important books and deep thinking. Usually use an obsequious accent of ill origin. Back to Dungeons and Dragons. Time for another cool episode. How to play D&D like a big old badass. One of the number one things you can do to be a badass is not to employ what I like to call arbitrary geometry. What did you just say? Why did you have to use teleportation to talk right then? Arbitrary geometry. Arbitrary geometry is only one aspect of things you want to avoid in tonight's topic here in the Lair of Knowledge. And that topic, you might as well settle in, guys. You might as well get comfy. This isn't one of them wishy-washy, 8-minute giggling at the camera videos. No, this is going to be power-packed. You might as well just get comfy because this is going to be like Entmoot right up here. Straight up Entmoot. If you're going to moot, you might as well Entmoot. Usually in the Lair of Knowledge, we discuss required reading. Now, although I do recommend getting yourself a copy of the Tomb of Horrors, that was just recreational preamble, if you will. I really only have one book that I want to share with you guys tonight that every good dungeon master has got to be not only familiar with, but fully internalize, to learn in his heart or her heart, in his soul or her soul, to truly imbue themselves with the knowledge. It happens to be this tiny little tome right here. Now, this isn't your average ponderous grimoire as we usually look at these large books. No, this is a compact little book. This isn't an 800-page source book or an anthology of everything Robert E. Howard has ever written. No, this is a simple, little, unassuming book called 101 Things That I Learned in Architecture School. 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School. So it's just a fun little, small format book. Go get yourself a copy. Get on Amazon. It could probably be at your house in like 20 minutes. Get some of that drone delivery. This is a genius book. Now, on the one hand, I would like to share with you all the parts and pieces, but I'm going to let you do that part because you want to play D&D. You want a dungeon master especially, like a big old bomb. So I know you're going to not only read this, but think deeply about what this is about. For the sake of the Lair of Knowledge conversation, let me give my take on what's going on inside that book that makes it so important that it would go onto the Lair of Knowledge reading list. The fundamental precepts of architecture are some of the most fascinating and useful for the dungeon master who wants to go from simple murder hoboism to truly sublime dungeon mastering. In thinking about the meaningfulness of applying the principles of architecture to dungeon mastering, I actually stumbled upon a fascinating duality in the hobby that I wanted to talk to, and the Lair of Knowledge is conducive to such esoteric discussions. What is the confluence or even riptide between the crafting hobby and the dungeon mastering hobby? Now, a few times in other videos, I have brazenly proclaimed that dungeon mastering and crafting are far from the same hobby. I find myself thirsty. Gods of dungeon mastering, grant me this boon. There we go. Man, that power is handy sometimes, I tell you what. Where is the confluence or riptide between the crafting side of the hobby and dungeon mastering itself? Actually running an ongoing game campaign for 3 to 5 players with a fascinating storyline, intriguing encounters, a sense of danger, a sense of character arcing, excitement and resolution, closure, love stories, military objectives, all of these things. That's great dungeon mastering. But then there's the craft side. So you've got DM Scotty, you've got DMG, you've got Wylock, you've got Pilly Pal rolling up. Like Pilly Pal showed up and he brought the heat, you know what I'm saying? And when he showed up with such skill and craftsmanship, it made me stop and ponder where I fit in the dungeon mastering cosmos. In order to find an answer to that question, I had to ask myself, well, what are the elements of being a great dungeon master and a great crafter? And where do I find myself on that spectrum? So what are the two sides? Well, first of all, you have making all the cool stuff. And then you have actually running the game. Both adjudicating as well as writing story, doing prep, guiding the group as well as answering their ideas, and so on and so forth. These two things to me represent two schools of geometric manifestation in architectural practice. One being an assister to visualization or a helper to imagination, and that would be the craft side. So the crafting DM is brilliant because he gives you all kinds of well-crafted tools, like this fine stone wall here that I use in almost every room I make. He gives you these tools, and as a player, it enables the half of the game, which is imagination. It's being the characters. And I am the paladin. I am a dwarf fighting the giant spider. I'm in the forest. That's what the players are telling themselves. And the great crafting DM makes it potent to have those thoughts and feelings. You can feel the sensation of facing down this terrible monster because it's well crafted. It's right there. The scale matches. The horror is real. It's easy to imagine. It's almost like watching a movie with some of the best crafters. Now, on the other side, there is what I would call the mechanical crafter, or the mechanical dungeon master. Now, he wants to give you experiences and encounters. You're using the characters, you're using the terrain, and you're using the game to accomplish mechanical exploits. Now, the term mechanical exploits could be taken in a sort of a pejorative fashion, right? Like, I don't like players who exploit mechanics. But I mean this in the most productive and positive possible way. Mechanical exploitation in game design can be manifest in a lot of wonderful moments, like a triple jump in checkers, or checkmating your opponent in chess, or even getting your massive double word score in Scrabble. It's the satisfying feeling that players get when they know and understand the mechanical elements at play and then exploit them or use them to gain awesome outcomes. And in those moments, they actually find not only unity, not only poetry, but sometimes glory. So on the one hand, you have the crafter DM. He gives you an easy to imagine and visually rich world. On the other hand, you have the mechanical DM, who gives you encounters you will never forget that are very fair, where the rules feel tight, where you feel like, oh man, remember that one time I did that combo of those two abilities and just like, boom, that was crazy awesome, right? It's a very different memory than, man, remember how scary that cave was? On the one hand, you have being the characters. That is where the craft DM shines. On the other hand, you have using or playing with the characters. That's where the mechanical DM shines. Now, of course, you want a dungeon master who is brilliant at both. Everybody always wants for it to be low calorie and great tasting too, right? Well, barring that ideal, I found myself thinking about these two elements and where I sit. And honestly, the answer came to me quite easily. I am definitely much further into the mechanical side. The details that you see are not here to just help you imagine the world. They are mechanically usable game pieces. Okay. Whoa, that was just the intro. Grief. Up from the depths of the ocean and down into my belly. Well, man, if you have an instinct for what kind of dungeon master you are, roll up and don't look back. Just if you're good at crafting and your encounters are all basically just damage sponges, just do it. It's all good. Your players will still love you. If you can't even like cut a piece of wood to save your life without making splinters, just stick to theater of the mind, man. It's all good. Put minis out on wood blocks and you're fine. But then your encounters better be damn good. You better have line of sight. You better have lock and key. You better have rock, paper, scissors type setups. You better have distance control. You better have visibility control, sound control, stuff like that. When you look into 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School, your ability to play into either side of dungeon mastering will be enhanced tenfold. Why is this one little tiny book going to make me so much cooler as a dungeon master? We can just think about the wider principles at play in architecture itself. A classic one is allow the viewer to meander into your final experience, right? So let's say my final experience is this giant spider here. Bad architecture does this. Here's my guys, here's my spider. Here's something over here that I honestly kind of don't care about. You're in a football field, you're staring him down, and there's 3 moves worth of space between you and him before there's a bullet sponge battle. Now maybe you have something else at play, but if this is a demonstration of architectural unity, you have not done very well. The concept of meandering into a reveal would work something more like this. Right? There is a natural tendency to, like water, players will often move like water, they will seek gaps. So this direction actually feels slightly prohibitive, so you might have a rogue go back there, but really there's a sensation of wanting to do this. That means keep your spider off the board until your players come around this bend in the trees, and then the spider is revealed. Boop! You come around the trees, revealing a spider. This thing is just too crazy to wear. It's a giant tube. So that's one of the most simple precepts in environmental design and architecture is let your viewer amble into the space. Make them wind a little bit, then reveal what you're trying to show them. Now, if you're just here to make this feel more like a forest, to just be a craft DM, then you're done. You put some bushes on the edge of your board, make sure that your space is usable for combat, and let your players start running around. And then here's my spider. Whoop, and we're battling. Great, no problem. The props still give the sense of being there. But if you're playing as a mechanical DM, you're not really doing much. Okay, so Hankrin, what the hell's this other thing over here? Let's say you're playing the same giant spider in the forest encounter as a mechanical DM. Hide your spider over here. Get this out here. Strategically place your rock spires so that this spider, currently obscured behind a barrier, the players investigate things. What the hell's that thing over there? It comes around. These are strategically placed that if you are in this square and this square, the spider does not detect you. These spires are not just here to make it feel more like a forest. They are line of sight tools that players can use. You as the DM know the spider is going to be drawn to the obelisk, right? So it walks. As it walks, players can switch squares just like this to stay out of line of sight. The spider comes over here. Baka! He jumps out from behind the spire and attacks. Another one that you can do as a mechanical DM is use these spires as toppleable damage assisters. Now, to make the damage assist extra fun, you probably want to somehow encourage the players to do a pinch maneuver, where both spires can be toppled onto the spider close to simultaneously. So what you want to do then is create a channel like this. The players stare down the spider as they enter the space, or better yet, they come in from this side. Meander in, get the reveal on the spider. The obelisk is shown as a reward behind him. But there's no getting past this thing. Look, it fills this whole space. So they can draw him forward, they split, they each make strength checks, and as the spider proceeds, boom, you get your 10d10 extra damage from toppling a giant stone onto him. Now that's mechanical DMing. And it's mechanical DMing because these don't need to be cool looking rocks. These can be wooden blocks, and the theater of the mind does a lot of the work, but the mechanics of the board give you this thrill. Now, you're going to have a lot of cases with skilled DMs where you're going to get both. You get a cool looking styrofoam rock, and you get fun, mechanically designed encounters. Now, the first few times that you try this with your players, they're going to probably bumble through it a little bit and maybe not catch all of your mechanics. So be patient. In time, if the campaign has a mechanical feel to it, they'll learn to start looking at the surroundings, hoping for clues, useful elements, and other mechanical components. The opening comment that I made was arbitrary geometry. If you're a craft DM who just wants to set the mood, don't worry about this next part. Just do arbitrary geometry till you're blue in the face, and people will like it, and it will feel cool, and no one will ever complain, I guarantee you. Take a look at this concept. You have a square room at the end of a zigzagging corridor seen right here. Now, these kinds of corridors and rooms are super common in dungeons, especially if you look at some of these like crazy gigantic Hearst Arts dungeons. They have a lot of twisting and turning right angle corridors that lead to square rooms, and then there's more, and it's like, whoa, whoa. Now, back in the early days, when people were doing a lot of mapping on grid paper and stuff, a lot of this made a ton of sense, and it was actually a really fun experience to try to map out the corridors and get a sense for where the traps are. Honestly, it was a heavy-duty clerical load to play in that style of game back then. Nowadays, not a lot of people are doing grid mapping. I don't know about you guys, but... So, I am now going to ask my players, they don't know about the giant spider yet, come on into the dungeon, guys! So they experience this. Oh, there's hey, there's another corner up ahead. Another corner. Oh crap, it's a giant spider. Woo! Okay. Now, although that satisfies some of the amble your way into a reveal principles, right? Remember, you don't want to just go ahead and reveal everything right away. To me, this corridor here feels completely arbitrary. Unless there is some kind of meaning to why there are corners here. Why is this corridor zigzagging like this? No one makes architecture like this. It's not like, I'm going to go to the DMV, let me just, oops, 100 more feet this way. Oh, I got to turn left 60 more feet. Whoa, there, I'm getting my driver's license. No, that's not how architecture works. You want to go to the DMV and get your architecture, or you want to go to the DMV and get architecture. Is that really what you want? No, you come in like this, and it's off center like that. You come in, and the reveal is the far corner of the room, right? So you get one nice bend. It's very utilitarian. So if you're a DM and you're going to put your characters or players through, a long, winding, right angle corridor like this one, have a purpose. Even this has more purpose. So here we have a T intersection. Something is off to the left and something is off to the right. That's really useful. That's a great way for a dungeon master to increase suspense, to leave a loose end for later if players want to return to explore. It's a way that you might even separate the party because one person wants to go left, wants to go right. But doing this is just plain bizarre architecture. Right? You just, what? Now, am I saying don't ever make any right angle corridors? Am I saying you did your dungeon wrong? No. Don't perform the fallacy of inference and extend these cases onto all cases. That would be silly. Simply saying that the principles present in this tight little book give you the mental tools to create more intelligent analysis of when you're being arbitrary with your geometry and when you're using it as a mechanical dungeon master. I keep using that term unity. The reference that I'm making here in the Lair of Knowledge is to, of course, the Aristotelian unities, which I think were later I think were developed by French analysts, classicists who were studying Aristotle. Basically codified Aristotle's values around creating a dramatic experience, which is that you need unity of time, unity of place, and unity of action. Meaning that you need a thing to both happen and resolve in a single space, in a continuous time. So that means don't jump all over the place. You won't create a continuous story. Now later, the term Aristotelian unities has actually, I think, come to represent an overall term about using rhythm, cadence, variety, but also symmetry and predictability in artwork, architecture, and storytelling to create dramatic effect. An example might be to do difficulty cadence. So a bad difficulty cadence as a dungeon master would be hard, 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 easy. What the hell is that? Another bad one would be easy, 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 easy. That's terrible. Nobody wants to do that. Good difficulty cadence is kind of like easy, easy, hard, easy, easy, hard, easy, easy, hard, right? There's symmetry, there's structure, but there's also rhythm and variety and surprises. It's the same with the utilization of the craft side of the art and the mechanical side. I recommend a cadence. And a cadence doesn't mean, okay, one day I'm going to craft and the next day I'm going to write in my journal and prepare adventures. The next day I'll craft, then I'll do the adventure. No, that's not a cadence. That just sounds like a concentration camp for dungeon masters. It sounds horrible. A cadence would mean do as much crafting as is needed to assist the visualization of your world. It can be a very tiny amount, like dry erase or just notebook paper, or it can be all the way into like the Scotty Wylock area, or even DMG, where he's so, perfectly consistent and it's all very measured and very controlled, or all the way over to the Pilly Pow style, where he's got like curved shapes, there's no grid, it's very loose, but it's really convincing looking and looks fun to just get in and dream about Moria, right? So first, that's your first piece. How much of that do you really want to do? How much is inspiring to you? Get a little bit of it done, get a little bit of it done. And then when you're starting to feel like, man, I'm just creating this overwrought world, there's time for your cadence, there's time for your rhythm. Now you need to get into, okay, well, I've got a bunch of pointy rocks and some bushes, and I need to sit for a moment and quit making things and think about how I'm going to use these. Are they line of sight blockers? Are they magical teleporting stones so that if I touch this one, then I'm going to appear where this one is? And be like, floop, floop. And then I'm going to bombard these guys with a monster that is too difficult to defeat without using the teleport stones? Maybe this monster has no hit points. It can only be harmed by harming these two little gemstones here. But I separate the gemstones with a huge barrier and trick the players into being alone, and then I clone my spider, and then, oh, well, that'd be crazy. So the great thing about cadence is that I've got 2, 4, 5, like 6 little props here. This is less than one night of crafting work. And yet you can create tons of mechanical variation because you're not just obsessing into one side of the art form or the other. You really don't need that many pieces. I mean, look how cool this is. I don't even need this one, honestly. This is great with just this many. There's a lot of room for players to breathe. It's clear that there's some kind of structure, but it's also freeform enough where it kind of feels like if something weird happens and I need to improvise the encounter, I can. This thinking, I basically took from remembering this little book. I got this little book last summer in Portland at that awesome gigantic bookstore. What's it called? The Monkey's Paw or something like that. I got this book there. It blew my mind back then, and then I've been reading it a little more recently, and then started thinking about all the guys on YouTube, which are kind of honestly crafting circles around me. And it made me wonder, like, should I even be doing a YouTube channel? And do I have anything actually constructive to say when these guys are killing it? And Scotty just kills it consistently. Like every week, this guy's got like crazy new projects and everything. And I come off it. I'll craft like mad one weekend, and then I'll spend 3 weeks trying to figure out a set of encounters and how the story can grow and how we can do character arcs. So, highly recommend giving a deep look into 101 things I learned in architecture school. Join me in the Lair of Knowledge as we bask in deep thinking and glory well earned as dungeon masters. Just a touch. You don't want too much cracking or it could destroy Argos. Good grief. Seriously, Argos humor? The circle of vengeance will be broken.